Welcome to my new manga collection update where I'll be showing you everything that's currently in my collection. If you follow my channel closely and you've seen every manga haul, you'll notice that my collection is much smaller than it should be, and that's because I sell a lot of manga that I don't truly love to read and collect. If I truly don't enjoy the story or the series has a really good anime adaptation that I can use to revisit the story, I'll usually sell those mangas so I have more shelf space and more money to buy for series that I really like and experience only through manga and no other medium. With that said, let's start off the manga collection showcase with the first shelf. The Gods Lie is a one-shot manga about a middle school boy meeting a girl in a fate encounter that changes both their lives. She agrees to take care of the cat that he saved, and when he arrives at her home, he sees that she's been secretly living all alone with the little brother. As he spends more time with him, their circumstances and reason for secrecy are slowly brought to light. It's a good one-shot manga that ties up the loose ends very well at the end. The mystery definitely keeps me engaged for the entire volume, and I recommend it to anyone looking for an interesting, quick read. Blood on the Tracks is a horror manga about a middle school boy and his extremely overprotective mother. The author is known for creating interesting human horrors that show the darkness from people rather than external forces such as demons or monsters. I'm personally not a big fan of supernatural work, so I really enjoy stories like this that are grounded in reality, so it's possible that this can actually happen in real life, but very horrible to imagine. The decisions the characters make will make you cringe and make you horrified. It's a series that I'm very excited to complete in the future. My Boy tells a story about two lonely people with no purpose in their lives until they meet each other. The two people are a middle school boy and a 30-year-old office woman. The age difference is quite large, but this isn't quite a romance manga, and I think so far the author has handled the strange love between the two characters in a more mature and appropriate way. At this point in the story for me, there hasn't been really anything where I'd say the author was creating an inappropriate love between two people of different ages. The story to me feels more like two people who don't have that special someone in their life similar to a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but they still find that same comfort in each other without the relationship being labeled anything more than friends. It's a shorter series with only 9 volumes, so I'm eager to see how the story ends when the other volumes come out. Bloom Into You is one of my favorite yuri or girls love manga where a freshman girl who has never known what love is meets an older classmate who wants a companion that will never love her back. This is the beginning of their relationship, but as time goes on, they feel more connected to each other and both slowly learn what love actually feels like. I originally picked up this series after watching the anime, which covers about half of the manga series, and I'm hoping that they animate the rest because they would only need one more season, but so far there's been no news and I'm not expecting any good news coming out anytime soon. Nonetheless, I recommend this series to all fans of yuri and romance because it's one of my favorites to read. Classroom of the Elite is my favorite light novel series right now to read. For those of you who don't know, light novels are similar to traditional books but have much more simplified language, making it easier to read, and they usually have a few illustrations to help better visualize certain moments. Classroom of the Elite follows an average student who enters a high school that ranks students based on their grades and certain personality traits. Class A has the best and brightest students, while Class D has quote-unquote defects, or students that excel in one thing but lack in everything else. Our main character was placed in Class D, but that was purposely planned by him as he's actually a hidden genius gifted with brains and brawn, but he doesn't want to attract any attention to himself and wants to live a normal high school life. However, the school isn't normal and routinely places the students under different tests that challenge each student against each other. Our main character works behind the scenes, manipulating other students to do his dirty work that allows him to win these competitions in his favor. I like how our main character is very smart and physically gifted, but one thing he's extremely bad at is social situations. He's a terribly awkward character, which I find enjoyable because I'm not a big fan of characters who are described as perfect. I really enjoy characters who excel in one thing but are flawed in another because it makes them feel more human and more real to me. If you're looking for a series about a person with a hidden power that needs to outsmart his opponents, I can't recommend a better series than Classroom of the Elite. Kaguya-sama Love is War is one of my favorite romance series in my collection. I love both the anime and the manga. The series follows two genius students who are trying to get the other to confess their love through their series of mind games and tricks. What makes this series so great is that the author just uses this premise as an initial hook and is able to evolve the story through storylines filled with gags and drama. The series also calls out a lot of traditional romance cliches, and the author does a good job of creating interesting, original storylines that develop the large cast of characters in the story. The anime adaptation is a great way to enjoy the series, but I would also say the manga is also a really great way to enjoy the story. If you really don't want to spend the money, then the anime is good, but I highly suggest all romance fans pick up Love is War for their collection. I just got the first volume to Freerun Beyond Journey's End this month, and I'm really liking this series so far. Unlike other adventure manga, this series takes place after our heroes have defeated the evil in the world and everyone now lives in an age of peace. We follow an elf who has an extremely long lifespan where the 10-year adventure to defeat the Demon Lord felt more like nothing to her life. Now the elf is on a journey to discover more magic, and along her journey she revisits the places that she's gone to before as a hero fighting evil, but now she's able to confront the regrets of her past, forming deeper bonds with her now deceased comrades. This series recently just got published into a physical manga and I look forward to adding it to my collection. Spy X Family is one of my favorites to read right now and has an anime adaptation coming out in 2022 and I'm extremely excited to watch it. Spy X Family follows a family made up of a spy husband, assassin wife, and an Esper child who's able to read minds. This family was falsely created for the spy's mission and everyone in the family is keeping their true identities a secret from each other to keep the illusion of a normal, happy family. This story is always at the top of my recommendations for people beginning to get into manga because it's a simple series that understands how to do an action comedy really well. This manga will probably explode in popularity once the anime is released, so I really recommend you pick this manga up now while you still can. Finland Saga tells the bloody epic of an era where violence, madness, and injustice are all escapable, providing a paradise for the battle-crazed and utter hell for the rest who live in it. I really enjoyed watching the anime and seeing this epic saga of all these different Vikings fighting each other. I'm hoping to get to start to read this series very soon. The Empty Box and the Zeroth Maria was the first light novel series I ever read and it's still one of my favorites. It's a short series of 7 volumes with each volume having a different scenario that builds from the previous. It's a short series of 7 volumes with each of the volumes having a different scenario that builds from the previous volumes. The first volume starts off with a high school girl confronting her classmate that she declares war on him and that she's lived the same day over 13,000 times. The boy now cannot have the peaceful high school life that he wants anymore as this mysterious girl has now pulled him to a crazy new life. The mystery of each volume keeps you interested in seeing what happens next, and at only 7 volumes, it's a relatively quick read and a great addition for any light novel fans. If you followed my channel for a while, you know that my favorite manga series in my entire collection is the works of Nagata Kabi called My Lesbian Experience in Loneliness, My Solo Exchange Diary, and My Alcoholic Escape from Reality. It's a series of manga about the author's life and her struggle with depression, anxiety, and her own sexuality. The manga feels real and personal, like a story about a person just trying their best in this world. Although I don't personally go through the extremes of her own mental journey, I can relate with how she feels and how hard simple things can be with people struggling with their own mental illnesses. Stories like this invoke empathy and compassion from me because after reading these, I feel like I should be more kind to others because you really never know what a person's battling, so you should never be mean to another person. The author is able to mix a healthy portion of comedy into the story to keep it a more lighthearted feel, but you can still feel the seriousness in the moments not to be taken lightly. Currently, there are 4 volumes and each of these is a different period of her life. Since it is a true story about her life, you can call this an ongoing series as long as the author wants to continue making stories about her life. The art is simple in the earlier volumes, and sometimes the art is really simple and crudely drawn, showing how bad her mental state was during that period, but this 4th volume has really good art and you can definitely tell the author has improved in both art and her mental state. Overall, this is a series that I recommend everyone read. It's a short series that I think will have a big impact on your life. A Life Turned Upside Down, My Dad is an Alcoholic is another manga essay about the author's life. This is a different author from My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, but the style is definitely similar and was possibly influenced by Nagata Kabi. This is a single one-shot manga that I really enjoyed about the difficult life of the author starting from her childhood. At the center of all the problems is her father who's an alcoholic, and you read about how this negatively affects her entire life from her relationships with her lovers to her personal relationships with her friends and family. I think it's important to read works like this that give you an insight on difficult lives that others have that allows you to understand the world and become more empathetic and kinder to others. Especially being able to recognize toxic behavior and preventing it is a very valuable thing that anyone can appreciate. If you're looking for a good one-shot manga to read, then this one is one I highly recommend. Another amazing series in my collection is Land of the Lustrous. After humans have gone extinct, this series revolves around humanoid gems living their lives and battling against Lunarians who are trying to steal the gems for their beauty. Our main character is a green gem named Phospholite who finds itself without any purpose in the world. It's not strong enough to battle with the other gems and not smart enough to help with the gems in any other way. It finds itself living the same boring day every day until one day its life is changed when a task is given to it. The story gives one of the greatest character arcs for a main character as it slowly learns that gaining power comes at a great cost. Phospholite goes through such a dramatic shift that the version that you see at the end of volume 11 is almost completely different from the person you see from volume 1. This series is currently on hiatus, but the manga series stopped at a good point and there should be only one more arc before the story concludes, so I still recommend picking this up. There's also a fantastic anime adaptation that animates the first few volumes that I highly recommend you watch as well. One Punch Man is probably the most popular manga in my collection, an action comedy with amazing art about a man who's able to defeat all his enemies with one punch. The author does a good job creating a large cast of characters who are all interesting to follow that allows every chapter to be fun to read. This series also has some of the best artwork that I've ever seen in a manga, so this series should be a must-have for any manga fan. I personally haven't been keeping up with it because it's a very long series, but I plan on picking up more volumes soon. Similar to One Punch Man, Grand Blue Dreaming is a comedy manga that also has amazing artwork. The story follows a guy entering his first year of college where he's forced to join the diving club and learns to love the ocean. That's the general plot of the story, and what I believe most fans love about the story is how much comedy there is that also builds on top of the overall story. It's no secret that great characters and a great scenario creates a great manga, and this is one of those great mangas. It's an easy read that will make you laugh, but there is a plot line to the story, so you'll come back to every volume seeing each of the characters develop and grow up through their own experiences at this college. Grand Blue Dreaming is a highly rated comedy series that I recommend for anyone. If I Could Reach You was a story that I bought a while ago, but due to COVID, the newest volume kept on getting delayed for almost a year now, so this series is one that I haven't read in a while. The story is about a high school girl and falling in love with her brother's wife and how she deals with this unrequited love. The problem is, 3 of them all live together, so they're always together, but the recent unhappiness in her brother's marriage makes her think that there may be a chance that they could be together. I don't have the final conclusion on the story yet, as I'm getting the last 2 volumes of the story early next year, and while I'm excited to finish reading the story, as of now I think it's just a fine recommendation if you want to read a story about unrequited love. Otaku, Love is Hard for Otakus is a simple romance manga that I've been really enjoying that takes place in the working world with adults rather than the common high school romance. There are 3 couples, with 2 couples already established from the beginning, and you get to read the blooming romance between the third, which is personally my favorite couple. Honestly, this is just an easy manga to read that references a lot of things that anime, manga, and gaming fans will understand and enjoy. It's not a series with drama between characters, rather it's just a fun manga for me to read to get away from the more serious anime and manga. Hell's Paradise is a manga I got as a gift that I have not been able to read yet, but the characters are searching for an elixir of life on an island believed to be paradise. The island is full of mysteries and the exploring team must struggle to handle them, even though the team is made up of people who are all marked for death. It's a series that will be receiving an anime adaptation soon and seems to be a popular shonen series that people recommend. Next is another series I got as a gift that I haven't gotten a chance to read, but the story is about a girl who claims that her memory dates back over 3 billion years ago to the very moment when life first appeared on Earth. It's an extraordinary tale of a girl who serves as the planet's witness, an inheritor of genetic memory that has been passed down from her maternal line since the beginning of life itself. It sounds like a really interesting manga series, and it's pretty short, so it should be a good pickup. A Sign of Affection is a new shoujo manga that I picked up that follows a hearing impaired university student that falls in love with another boy from the school. The boy loves to learn new ways to communicate with others, so he's fascinated with the girl and the two begin to grow closer together. This is a series where the main male character is one of those cool type of characters that seem to attract everyone, but he acts all quiet and perfect, which is the type of character that I don't really like because, as I said before, perfect characters always seem extremely unrealistic to me. Nonetheless, I'm going to slowly collect the series to see if the author breaks this mold, but if he stays the same, I'm probably going to drop this one. The Flowers of Evil was created by the same author who created Blood on the Tracks, another human horror that I showed earlier. This series has a similar vibe to Blood on the Tracks, where the characters find themselves in terrifying situations that they have put themselves in. The story starts off with our main character stealing another girl's gym clothes and being confronted by another that she saw him do it. Afraid of being exposed, his normal life is crumbling around him as he has to obey her every order. The series is complete and not too long, so I recommend this manga to anyone that's a fan of drama and human horrors. A Girl on the Shore is a story written by one of my favorite manga authors, Inio Asado, and it's about a girl who gets rejected by her crush, so she enters a friends with benefits relationship with another guy. The description states that the manga takes a harsh look at love, relationships, and the emotional price that is paid with the result of a decision made between 2 teenagers. As a fan of the works of Inio Asado, I decided to grab this since it was on sale at Right Stuff, so we'll see if it's good or not. Chainsaw Man is one of my favorite shonen manga in my collection, with a story full of gore, comedy, and extreme violence. Chainsaw Man follows Denju, who gains the powers of the Chainsaw Devil, giving him chainsaws for his arms and his head. He now works as a devil hunter alongside a team of humans and other devils. I think the best action mangas are like Chainsaw Man, where there's not too much text or filler and the author gets right to the point with the battles. The dialogue between the characters is always important information being conveyed, or is just another fun moment to let the audience love the character more. Chainsaw Man is getting an anime adaptation earlier next year, so I highly recommend you pick it up now before the series explodes in popularity. Boarding School Juliet is a romance manga similar to the story of Romeo and Juliet, except this takes place in a boarding school for high school students. The country and the school are split up into 2 factions called the Black Dogs and the White Cats, which separates the 2 main characters. The beginning of the manga starts off with Romeo and Juliet officially becoming a couple, and you see them try to hide their relationship from others, since being caught with mean both of them would be secluded from the rest of the school. The author soon breaks out of this, creating story arcs that allow the characters to grow and develop relationships for their goal of breaking down the two factions so everyone can be together. The story doesn't get too repetitive and has a nice cast of supporting characters that each find out about the relationship and support the main couple as they try to do the impossible and show that their love is not wrong. I recommend this series for any fan of romantic comedies. We Never Learn is a harem series that is almost done publishing that I'm excited to finally complete. It's a series about a guy who needs to tutor certain geniuses at the school, and as he supports their goals, unlike anyone else in their lives, they slowly fall in love with him. This harem romance actually has multiple endings where the author shows what it's like if the main character ended up with each of the 5 different girls, and you get to decide which one is canon. It's a simple and fun romantic comedy to read with good art, and it's one I recommend if you're just looking for something fun to read. Yamanakun and the 7 Witches is a fun supernatural series that takes place in an ordinary high school. Yamanakun is seen as a delinquent student and has the ability to copy the power of the other 7 witches at the school. The 7 witches are 7 different girls at the school who each have a hidden ability that he needs to figure out. It's just a fun comedy series to read with progressing plots, so every volume you're able to learn more about the characters and the story, so it doesn't feel like the same thing over and over again. The series is almost done publishing, and I'm excited to see where the story is going to end. Dora Hedorah is an amazing series with some of the best world building I've ever seen for a series. The story is about a man whose head was turned into a lizard, so he lost his face and his memories, so now he's trying to hunt down the sorcerer who did it to him. It's a cruel and gritty series with tons of violence and gore, but what the author does really well is creating tons of mystery with the story. Mystery allows the author to keep the reader more engaged by creating a puzzling situation with no answer and forcing the reader to continue by completing the mystery. If this is done poorly and the story is just a bunch of mystery, the reader will be confused and have no idea what's going on, but the author does a good job of slowly adding new mysteries while answering questions that kept me hooked. If you're able to find volumes of this, I highly recommend reading it, and there's a really good anime adaptation that you can also watch that will hook you onto the story. Solo Leveling is a Korean manhwa, and it's similar to traditional Japanese manga, except it's in full color and you read left to right. The story is simple. The world is full of ranked hunters who enter gates to battle monsters and take home treasure for money. Our main character is known as the weakest hunter, but that soon all changes when he goes through a near-death experience that gives him a video game-like system that allows him to get stronger faster than any other hunter. The art in the story is amazing, and I really enjoy reading a story about a person who has nothing, but once they're given the opportunity, works hard to become stronger than anyone else. I really recommend you pick up this series. It's a really fun one to read. Blank Canvas, My So-Called Artist Journey is a real-life story about the author's life into becoming a manga artist. It begins with her as a young student attending art classes to perfect her skills in order to one day become a manga artist. At only 5 volumes long, this is a really great story to read that shows you the ups and downs of a person trying to achieve their dreams. You can see how much work and how much luck it takes to do what you love for a living. It's a really great manga that I recommend you read that will open your eyes a little to the world. So I'm a Spider, So What is a light novel series about a reincarnated person who is now a spider needing to fight for her life in one of the most dangerous dungeons in the world. Usually when characters are transported to a new world, they gain abilities that make them easily able to defeat their enemies, but not this series. Our main spider is actually at a disadvantage because of how small and weak spiders are in the world, and she needs to defeat all her enemies using her brains and luck rather than raw strength. I really like the leveling in the game system that's in this light novel because whenever our main character defeats a monster, we immediately get to see how much more powerful she gets and how she evolves through skill and appearance. It's a really fun light novel to read, and I recommend it to any fans of the isekai genre but want a refreshing take on it. Berserk is an amazing series that follows our main character named Gus, who's out for revenge against his former best friend who betrayed him. He's been marked for death where he's constantly hunted by demonic beings. Berserk breathes life into each of its characters and really pulls you into the story of a man trying to do the impossible and defeat someone who's completely out of his reach. Unfortunately, the author has passed away, so the manga is on a hiatus, but I still recommend that you read this and buy this story because it's one of the best I've ever read it. Vagabond is another great manga series about a samurai who's trying to become the strongest in the world. This manga has great art and plenty of action that makes every chapter a thrill to read. Our main character is a raw samurai who fights with an extremely rough style similar to fighting a wild beast. He meets and challenges the strongest fighters that he can find who all have honed their unique style. I'm trying to buy more of this series when it comes back into stock, and I recommend you grab some too. Soledan is a one-shot manga from one of my favorite manga authors, Inio Asado, and it's simply about a couple and their adult lives. Together they look towards their dreams from the college days as they decide to revive their old band. Soledan tells an intimate story about the trials and tribulations of love, loss, and grief centered around the people in their 20s who often slip between the cracks of society. It's a great one-shot manga to read, and there is an epilogue that was sold, but I recommend you just read it online rather than spend the extra overcharged money for such little content. Dead Demons, Dead Destruction is another of Inio Asano's works about a group of girls living in a world where there is an alien invasion taking place. Although the aliens just add another interesting layer to the story, as the aliens are treated more as a nuisance by the public and a political issue by the government. Some say the government should gun down the aliens, while others say that they're not harming anyone, just leave them alone. The main story really is just about a group of girls and their lives transitioning from students to adults in the world as they deal with the loss of their friends and struggle with their purpose in the world. I think it's a great series for anyone to collect. This is the final manga in my collection called Good Night Poon Poon, graded by Inio Asano, and is probably one that I would recommend everyone get. It's a coming of age story about Poon Poon, who's depicted artistically as a bird for the readers, but he's a normal person in the story. You read about Poon Poon's life from a child learning about the world into an adult who has faced trauma from the messed up things that has happened throughout his entire life. There are graphic, powerful moments that happen in the series that make you think for days on after, which I find to be a sign of a great series. This series isn't that long, but I believe that this is one that should be a must-have for your collection, as it's known as one of the greats for manga. That's everything that's currently in my collection. If you ever need to buy manga and buy from Right Stuff Anime, please use my affiliate link below, as it helps out the channel greatly. Please comment your favorite manga series you read this year, and I'll try to check it out. Thank you for watching, and I hope we continue to collect manga together.